Well, I'm now joined by Michael Roth, who is the founder and chief scientist of DynamicAction and a long-time Amazon follower. Michael, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
David, good to be here.
Very daft question, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. What is Amazon?
No, David, I think it's a fantastic question. I think it's probably such an easy question to gloss over. And I think as consumers, obviously, we think of Amazon as a retailer. But Amazon is much more than that. And given that in the UK, as an example, they're carrying in excess of 100 million SKUs, they're not a retailer in any traditional sense of the word. I think of Amazon much more as a commerce platform. And when one thinks about the things that they offer in terms of their marketplace, Amazon Web Services, the services from a fulfillment perspective. They're also a brand owner. They're also increasingly a movie studio. So, but at the core of them, they're a platform provider that is then able to sort of offer various bits and pieces to anyone who wants them. And they have lots of clever reinforcing loops that make that platform ever stickier.
Given that they are as diverse of that, what is it that drives a common behaviour across all of it?
So I think there are a few themes that maybe help understand how Amazon think. I think at the core is a relentless focus on the customer, and whether that customer is an end consumer or whether it's a consumer of Amazon Web Services, they've got a particular obsession about consumers.
But many companies says they're consumer obsessed. What is it? I mean,
and I think that's the point. I think
many
many customers say it, and I think Amazon really lives and breathes it. It's deep in their DNA. When they think about new products, the first thing they do is write the press release, how they would explain it to customers. And I think, let me give you some other examples about this customer centricity. Metrics and what you measure and what you talk about are fundamental to how businesses live and think. Amazon, from the get-go, from 20 years ago, it always measured things that were important to customers. So I work with lots of retailers that talk about availability and talk about their deliveries on time in full. Amazon talks about page-weighted availability. Are they in stock of the products customers are looking at? It's a customer view of availability. They talk about delivery on promise, which is a customer view of delivery. And they are relentless about understanding where are they failing customers and then doing something about it. So I think that's one thing that drives them. I think the second thing that's important is a very long-term view. Many of their investments are taking a 10, 15, 20-year view, both on consumer profitability, but also on the dynamics of retail. So understanding how different categories might migrate in the very long term online, so they're willing to take very big long-term bets that I think other typical public companies aren't able to do.
Now we saw in the film that Jeff has managed to persuade the street to judge their metrics completely differently to any other company on the planet. How's he done that?
Well, that's the greatest trick that he's pulled off. I think it was always when, in the early days of Amazon, when they were losing huge amounts of money, the Bezos fixation was not to run out of cash. And I think that's another key theme of Amazon. They deeply understand how they make money at a profit per customer, profit per SKU basis, and also what generates cash. And a lot of their activities lose money but generate cash, given their cash flow model. So I think the cleverness that Amazon has pulled off is persuading the street that they deeply understand what activities make and lose money, how they generate cash, and then they can take a very long-term view. And that's probably something that, again, Bezos has done an extraordinary job and has obviously very, very supportive shareholders.
Now, do you view this potential takeover as a wake-up call to the industry, that Amazon's out to sell us everything?
Well, I think retailers should have had a wake-up call many years ago. I fear many pressed the snooze button. This has been going on for a long time, and I think this is just the next although albeit a big line in the sand. I think one of my observations is, you've seen online penetration go category by category online gets a bigger and bigger share. But it's also very clear that retail is here to stay. You know, people like physical stores, people want to experience things, particularly in food, they want to test and prod. So I think what this does is recognise that the future of retail is very much omni-channel, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be multiple ways to engage with things, and I think that the wake-up call is that, you know, whatever category and whatever you're doing, Amazon is an absolutely key both competitor if you're competing with Amazon, but equally if you're not competing with Amazon, it sets the bar for the experience.
Now, many companies, when they announce a takeover or a merger, talk about the synergies they're going to get between putting the two things together. Are there really any synergies between these two, or is this just a gigantic field experiment?
Again, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think probably a couple of thoughts on this. I know Amazon have become increasingly selective of what they acquire. They're acquiring when they're going into either markets they don't understand or to buy into supply chains that are very challenging to build from first principles. And I think grocery is probably the most complex supply chain, long brand relationships, and I think that buying into Whole Foods gives them access to a supply chain, a set of branded relationships that it would otherwise take many, many years for them to build themselves. But I think the second thing is we all understand that you know, when Amazon is selling direct to consumer, they understand the true end-to-end economics of every item they sell, and the last mile delivery is a critical piece of the jigsaw. A big percentage, I think now 30+% of all items that are delivered by Amazon in the UK are now delivered by their own couriers, but they're constantly trying to eke out penny savings. And my hunch is that different delivery models, and particularly click and collect, where things are delivered to where the consumer is doing some of the work themselves and picking up, will be a really important part of the, should we say, the sort of long range, how this world plays out. So I think having in the US, I think they've got 800 stores, will be a very interesting experiment for them to work out how do they get the right balance of direct to home versus store delivery.
Now, one of the things that Amazon has been a pioneer of is artificial intelligence in one form or another. We can suppose that they'll be bringing those skills to Whole Foods as well. Is this the dawn of artificial intelligence now being used in physical retail as well?
Again, it's a very interesting question. When, you know, AI is one of the worst defined terms in the world at the moment, so I try not to sort of use it bluntly. I see a big spectrum of things in the sort of AI world, from simple process automation at one extreme, which is one, you know, simple AI, to, you know, deep neural nets and the sort of things they're doing in Alexa and image recognition that is clearly at the sort of super clever machine learning end. And there's a lot of stuff in the middle. And I'd say a lot of the things that Amazon have done very cleverly with, say, price automation and optimization and supply chain and replenishment pricing and optimization is, should we say, the sort of the basics of AI that all retailers will need to be doing in due course. And I think the reason is that every retailer I'm talking to needs to become more efficient. You know, you see the pressure on overheads, desire to take employees out, but at the same time, they're having to work cleverer. They're having to take much more surgical actions. And the only way to do that is to get the machines to do some of the work. And I think one of the insights I've had recently from Amazon is that they're now training their managers to manage hybrid teams of humans and AI. So that I think of AI will be the new employee of the future, and people will get used to operating in hybrid worlds where the humans should do what the humans are good at and let the machines do
where human rhythms meet algorithms.
Where human rhythms meet algorithms. Beautiful.
Michael Ross, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us.
Thank you, David.